Back in the late 1980s, I suppose, early 90s, I picked up a book, very famous book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And the sequel to it, which I believe was called Lila. Anyway, I read this book and it had a big impression on me, as it did for many people. It was a big bestseller at the time. In effect, what Robert Pirsig, who wrote it, was dealing with was this idea of quality, and quality being a thing that exists in the universe. He wanted to reduce the idea of the universe almost down to quality, but he told or explained this philosophy rather than write an academic book. He allied it to a story of him riding across America, I believe with his son, on motorbikes. And the mundane aspects of looking after your motorcycle was put against these great philosophical ideas. That idea that you could describe a journey, which would then be a metaphor for something greater, was also very influential on me. The idea of thinking about quality and this idea of the mundane up against the sort of metaphysical, and this idea of a journey, that when you're on a journey, that can be seen as the journey, but this also metaphorically is a journey to some sort of realization, I suppose, all had a great effect. But undoubtedly, the greatest effect that book had on me was the fact that the title was based upon a much older book of Zen thinking, which again brought the mundane with the metaphysical together. And this is a book called Zen and the Art of Archery. And I went out and bought that book as well. And that was very, very impressive. Now, I think the Zen and the Art of Archery, there's a lot of very wise ideas in it, but I think I'm going to try and just bring down the essential idea that is in Zen and the Art of Archery. And also this idea is then taken forward in Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Now, let's have a little bit of a talk about Zen. Zen is a sort of wing of Buddhism, which is based upon contemplation. There's a certain aspect to it. It's based upon contemplation. You could say it's a mixture of Buddhism and Taoism. Taoism has this idea in terms of aesthetics where creativity is not about the big statement that you make. It is about uncovering something that exists in the world. Behind me are objects that I have collected and placed behind here. I've placed some of them because I just think they're very pretty objects, or I like them. Say if you've got a house and you wanted a picture on the wall, rather than going down and buying some mass-produced artwork, you could just simply climb onto your roof and find a piece of slate which has a beautiful pattern on it, and you could put that on your wall, and you could say, well, that's what I'm going to have to look at. That's what I'm going to look at. That's my idea of beauty. And of course, beauty is then linked to the idea of quality. If you wanted to make me a sculpture, you might go down to the local river and find yourself a nice big pebble that's been, it's got lovely colours. You might go, I really like that, and you might put that on and that. And so the art is in you recognizing that beauty that's out in the world. That's an aspect that is in Zen. This idea of the sort of beauty, the revelation of beauty. But it's also based upon this idea of contemplation. So the famous thing you might contemplate as a Zen student might be, what is the sound of one hand clapping? That is the cliche. I am no expert on Zen Buddhism, as experts on Zen can probably tell by my description of it. I'm talking about my subjective influence that this stuff has had on me. I read a book on Zen Buddhism, and this guy went to some monastery, and they said, oh, could you go and just, we'll have a chat with you. Could you just go and sit over there? And he was taken to a big concrete block, and he had to sit on it. And as he waited, he realised there was no comfortable way of sitting. And so he was shuffling about, and then he would sit in a certain place, and he'd get backache. And eventually he found a way of sitting on this block where he had a balance between all things, and he suddenly nailed it. Of course, this was the first challenge, or first bit of learning was in this idea of just sitting on this concrete block. All these ideas have impressed me greatly. So we then go to Zen and the art of archery. So how am I going to describe the central idea that is basically the central idea that's going to go through this video? Zen and the art of archery is about archery. It's about the mastery of archery. And it describes a process where you would learn to hold the bow, and you would learn, how to draw back the string, and then you would practice, and then you would get good, and you would get more accurate, and you'd study all the techniques and all the stuff that artists do, all the stuff that musicians do, the archer also has to do. But with archery, you have a target, right? And if you take archery as a metaphor, which I will do in a bit, it's very interesting how it applies to the creative acts. But the point is you've got this goal, right? Your goal is to hit the target. And what this book posits is once you've mastered it, once you've mastered archery, you haven't mastered it until you unmaster it, right? That's the Zen aspect of it. To hit the target, you've got to learn how to not hit the target. Okay? You have to stop aiming. All right? You have to take away your intention, which has brought you to this point. That has to now be quelled. Now, you might say, well, yeah, I suppose that's an idea, but it's not really true, is it? If you're trying to hit a target, you need to really concentrate. When you see someone aiming at a target and firing something at it, they have to really concentrate. Well, no, they don't. You've got it wrong. Because when you look at any subject, there are intuitive aspects of that subject and counterintuitive aspects. The reason why being a creative person is really, really hard is because there is so much in there that is counterintuitive. That is like the esoteric wall that goes around creativity that stops most people from getting in. Now, how do you get in there? You have to master it, and you have to learn these things. Knowing all the chords and the scales, and having all the equipment, and watching all the videos, and having all the courses, and knowing everything that you can will not in any way help you master being creative as a musician. On this video, I'm going to tell you what I think you need to do. If you've got to that point, what I think you need to do. And I would suggest you go and pick up a copy of Zen and the Art of Archery. It's probably a PDF on the internet because it's such a small book, and have a read through it combined with what I'm about to tell you now. Have you ever had the weird feeling that, say you're in an office and there's people in there, they're watching you, and suddenly this compulsion comes over to you as you screw up your ball, that rather than taking it to the waste paper basket, you will show off and go woohoo like that and throw it up. And as you throw it up, right, sometimes something comes over you, doesn't it? If you notice, you're so relaxed and so involved in just doing that, you do it in such a way which is so easy and flowing and so not considering. It's almost like the joke will be, it's going to go in the bin. But as you let go, even before it lands in the bin, you know it. That feeling there, right, when you go, no, none of this, right, I'm going to try and get it in. You just go, pick the thing up, and then, bang, there it goes. Whoa, bang, in the target, hits the target. That mind state, I believe, is essential for the creative act. Okay, so let's actually look at the archer now and break it down. And I want you to ask yourself, what is every aspect of an archer? So the artist is the archer. The art is going to be hitting the target, smack on, right? So in terms of the artist, what is hitting the bullseye smack on? What is it? I ain't going to answer that here. That's another video. I could do a whole video called What is Hitting the Target in Art? What are you trying to do? That has to be considered, doesn't it? You have to know what target you're aiming at. The archer has it easy because it's right there in front of them. But us artists, what are you trying to hit? What is it? Be successful? Have loads of people like you? Be the fastest? be the most technical, make something that's perfect? Are any of these attributes that we would put with great art? No, you've got to consider what great art is. And that is a subject-object discussion in your mind. You can have it with other people. And this whole channel is based around that idea. So what we're discussing the whole day is everyone knows. I'll come back to that over and over again. So there's the idea of what we're trying to do with the art. So if you want to hit the target, you need to know what that is. So that's something you can list. I need to know what I'm trying to do. And it has to be correct. You know, it's like you cannot be an archer and fire an arrow at your target and then go, oh, sorry, that was, oh God, that was an audience member. I always get those things mixed up. You can't do that. Right? You have to know what the target is, right? So the archer's the artist. The target is when you hit the bullseye is making great art. The act of doing it is making art. So you could be firing your arrow and missing it. You're still an artist, I suppose, but you're an artist that never hits the target. What about the bow? What is that? Okay, the bow is all the equipment that you've got. It's like your instruments or your voice. That's the bow. What about the arrow? The arrow is the piece of art. So in a way, the target actually is not the art itself. It's the art being successful. And what would that be when you hit the target? I think that's the bit I can't discuss on this. There's a certain, when you hit the bullseye, I cannot discuss it here. It's too big. I won't be doing this video justice by talking about something else, but it's in there inherently, right at the core. Right. What about the quality? What about the quality of the arrow? What about the quality of the bow? You've got to have good equipment. But what about the quality of the arrow? The quality of the arrow, I mean, it's like if it's bent, it's not going to hit the target, is it? The art has to be correct. It has to be right. It has to be streamlined. It has to have a point. So just in looking at all this, I think it's quite interesting to put that metaphor and ask ourselves a question. And more importantly, if we could put certain ideas out there and align them with creativity, because you've got to understand philosophically, there's not much stuff out there about creativity. Nothing that makes any sense to me. This is the area that does not exist. And the reason is because as we exit the industrial epoch, we're exiting that now and everything seems to be going wrong. The reason is because we really got good at truth categories up until postmodernism, but you had a really great methods for identifying truth. But creativity, it wasn't seen to be important. It's going to be bloody important now. If AI does anything, it'll make people realize that the only thing human beings have over AI is that we're creative. Okay? Of course, a computer can hit the target with all its laser vision and its, and all that. And we're living in a age of drone warfare. Think about it. Think about how profound this idea, not mine, but the ideas inherent in ZEN and the art of archery are. Think how profound that is. What I want to talk about here is that mind state. ZEN and the archery says, once you've got all that in position and you draw your bow, you have to then learn to hit the target by not hitting the target. I think this is perhaps the hardest thing to understand. Obviously, if your goals, your target, your bow, if any of those things are wrong, it's not going to work. So you have to have all those in place. But once those things are all in place, you have to then make the art without thinking. You have to take yourself out of it. So on the second half of this video, I want to go through certain examples or techniques or approaches you can utilize for doing that. I believe that one of the problems artists have is the mind state for being creative is one of being open and receptive. It's about being open and the thing comes in and goes out, right? If we go back to that Taoist idea of what art is, art always starts with us hearing something, seeing something, experiencing something, thinking something, whatever it is, the outside world comes in. and it goes into our body, and our body is our mind and our body. And most art forms are a sort of where that has a sublime symbiotic relationship when you make art. It doesn't happen with everything you do in life, but when you make art, there is always a physical aspect. And this physical aspect is rendered by the mental in a sort of very fine motor skill place. It's like, it's a point where it's incredibly refined, and it creates something that exists in the world. And in that object is embodied the state that you are in, your reaction to the world. You react to the world in a certain way. Now, what are you reacting to? You are reacting to quality or lack thereof. You are reacting to beauty or lack thereof, right? Beauty and quality, once you put those ideas, which are quite vague, and we start to put belief systems on them, they turn into emotions, they turn into morals, they turn into ethics. Part of the reason why I chose this room is because of the brick walls. I love the brick walls in this room, okay? And because I have these brick walls, it means that whatever angle I choose, let's just change my angle up a bit. Okay, let's do that. Let's just change the viewpoint if I can. Oh God, I've got a funny stand here. It's, well, a broken one is the best way to describe it. So let's just we won't have the Union, well, we'll have a bit of Union Jack in. If you want to know why the Union Jack's in the background, it's because here in the UK there's a thing called, it's about, you know, being proud of your flag. But for me, I thought I was a very small child, not really knowing what that flag meant. I thought it was a really beautiful thing, and I started painting it over and over again. My friend Matthew Bourne, who's a great artist, he had a love of America, and he started painting the American flag like Jasper Johns. I've always been interested in flags. I think they're pretty. So I see something and I think it's pretty. Now, I don't think these amps are particularly pretty, or that blackboard, you know. I like that painting of Elvis Presley. I wouldn't have put it on the wall. I don't like that red thing there. I don't even know what that is. But these bricks, I love them. I love them. What colour are bricks? Well, bricks are red. Can you get some red for me? You know, I'm going to paint them all red. What sort of, like a brick red? Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Bricks aren't red. Look at them. Bricks are orange, brown, black almost, blue, yellow. Look at it. Look at all the colours, you know, deep red, pink. You know, there's all these colours there. We look into that. We have an assumption about the way the world is. You know, you could look at that wall, right? But are you really seeing that wall when you look at it? Are you really seeing it? Okay? Right. Let's move yet again. Let's make the wall the subject of this video. Let's sit me there. Right? And move me. And so I could talk about how much I love this brick wall. I love it. There it is, behind me. That's good. I like that. Is that better? Now you can really start. Now you're up close. You can start to study the brick wall. Now the thing is I think it's very beautiful. I'm sure you do. I love the colours. All the colours are different, but they all harmonious because they have the attribute of a brick. I love that very much. But also, they're very patterned. They're in a nice pattern, which is moving diagonally like that across, isn't it? The way the bricks have been laid. Bricks are laid in a certain way. They have to be laid in a certain way across each other. But of course, this whole factory was built by human beings. We have the hallmark of their skill, which is at once ordered. These bricks are ordered. As we can see, there's a level of order, but they're also chaotic at the same time. And those two things together create a sort of sublime pattern, which is at once orderly, and we can study the orderly in this and that pattern, but is also chaotic. And that's compelling. Now, I can then put beliefs into this. I could add into this the fact that this building was built probably over 100 years ago. The people who laid these bricks have been dead a long time. This is a product of the Industrial Revolution, the industrial age here in the United Kingdom. When buildings were built like this, This is built out of materials that are much closer to nature than we have now. The sort of glass and steel and plastic of our buildings now aren't quite the same as a brick which is built in the hearth of something out of the raw materials. This seems closer to nature than the materials we would have in the building now. It seems to slot into the landscape. The brown of those bricks matches the green of the trees through the windows behind it. All of these things I could try and express. I could express it in a poem. I could express it in a video like this where I sit and talk about it. And you go, well, that was quite interesting. Andy, I never thought you could sit and look at a pile of bricks like that. Yeah, you can. In fact, was it Carl Andre did the pile of bricks in the early 70s? The piece of art that is always brought up as being the thing that has no actual art. Oh, conceptual art. I mean, he wants to look at a pile of bricks. Well, I got to be honest, I wouldn't look at a pile of bricks. You're looking at a pile of bricks, and they're actually quite pretty, aren't they? Look, they're pretty. Is that not a nice thing? And this little curve they've put on there, oh, beautiful, the shadow, the way that runs down. And look at how horrible that bloody black... Well, the black tube's not so bad, but that plug down there, it doesn't fit. It's not aesthetic. It's not beautiful, is it? It's not beautiful at all, but this is beautiful. Is this not beautiful? Right? Is this not beautiful? The thumbnail, I don't care about views with this. It's a Philosophy Sunday video. The thumbnail will be just that. Right? No words. Just to make the point. It'll have a title, but it will just be a brick wall, which has a metaphorical, because it's like, you know, it's like staring at a brick wall. Okay? This is what art does. Objects in the world don't have beauty or quality. We imbue them, and we can imbue the world with beauty and quality. It's there, but we have to find it. And in our choosing it, we find it. Now, you could say that, and this is how I would try and explain how I think the creative process needs to work. I could have last night go, right, which I did. I thought I'm going to do a chat about Zen and the art of archery. I'm going to do a video called Zen and the art of music making. That's going to be the title. So I've now got the title and I have the thumbnail. We were up and going. It's good stuff. We won't get any views. I mean, a bloody picture of a brick wall and that title with no text on it is not going to set the world on fire. Unlike another video I'm working on at the moment, which is going to be called the 10 greatest musicians who have lost their limbs. The only trouble is I've only got one person on that list at the moment. There'd definitely be a number that one, and that would be Rick Allen from Def Leppard. Now, as I say this, you are probably thinking, oh, Andy, I really want to watch that video, rather than this sort of esoteric, long-winded video of you just talking about brick walls. But I am trying to impart something pretty profound here, I hope. And in doing that, this video becomes an inherently esoteric on my channel. Some people who might have learned watching my channels about, you know, the top 10 musicians who have lost a limb might have picked up something here, and they might then venture to click on the brick wall. And by that, I actually have created a special door which you go through to get the esoteric aspects. It's not that I'm saying anything that nobody could say, but you have to have done some training to arrive there. And this is the same as being a creative artist. And the thing I want to get across to you now is on this channel, when I applied my ideas of creativity, I decided to let the chaos in. I could have sat at home thinking, what's this video going to be? And I could have written some chapters out, some notes, some bullet points, and I could have on the floor, you know. And I used to do that on Philosophy Sunday videos at the start. I did used to structure. I've just completely stopped now. So this brick wall, which for me seems like the best metaphor I could have for what I'm trying to describe here, has just appeared out of nowhere. I didn't plan it. I didn't think, oh, I'll talk about a brick wall. I mean, if I thought that, I'd go, why don't I just do a whole video where I just chat about a brick wall? I sit in front of a brick wall, just chat about it. And I show that you can make an interesting video just pointing out the beauty of the brick wall, you know. And I could probably do that, but I want to make the point. The point's more important. Is that to get into that mind state. Now let's just have another metaphor for that mind state. Okay. I've told this story so many times on the channel, I will say it again. Many years ago, nearly 40 years, I was painting in a studio doing my degree in art. And my lecturer comes in and I was struggling, and he looked at my brush marks and he looked at what I was doing and he said, you need to imagine that you are a squirrel about to jump from one branch to the next. If you mix the branch, you will fall to your death. So you have to make sure you pounce right. But when you make that jump, you need to be as relaxed as you possibly can be. This, for me, is the inherent conundrum of being the creative artist. You have to let chaos in, and you have to tamper your judgment down. The process that's going on that's making creativity is not your ego, and it is not your thought process. It is not what you think is right or wrong. It is not what you think is good or bad. Your taste means nothing. Your judgment means nothing. And actually, when you're making creative music and you're expressing yourself, for it to have any emotional aspect at all, you should have lost yourself to the idea of quality, right? Your judgment is wrong. You cannot make art and judge it at the same time. So I would suggest a way of exploring this would be, for example, put your first idea down first. See that when you turn up to make music, that the music's going to be made in the first few minutes. Practice is going to take a long time. You may practice and practice, and you may get really, really good, and that might be at the end of 3 hours, right? But the creative process is completely different. Once you start being creative, the clock's ticking. You have a window of creativity. Once you start to understand what you're doing, once you start to nail it and get where you're coming from, you have now no longer in the creative zone. You know too much, and that's your problem. You know too much. You've got to get rid of that. You've got to react. You're a human being. You've done all the work. You've done all the skill. Now you have to react to it. You can't question it because you don't know what it is. And this here, I've just had a realization. That is what the target is. That's what the bullseye is. The bullseye is for you to express yourself honestly, is to react, to not have the thought processes of how do I make myself look good? How can I do stuff that people like? How can I do stuff that looks really cool, right? How can I do stuff that's got all the boxes that have been ticked and does everything I want and then gets a person to think of me in a certain way and think that I'm a good person and massage my ego, or maybe I need to express how bad I feel about the world. I have to show how bad the political system is. I've got to put this bloody framework, which already exists. We know. You're not exciting enough. I'm not excited. None of us are excited enough to say anything profound. How do we say something profound? It's the nexus between the object and the subject. It's the nexus between us and all the work we've done to be able to respond, right? But the only reason why we can respond is because something happens. We have to respond to the outside world. We have to respond to that in an honest way, which means shutting up. What do your muscles want to do? What do your bones want to do? What does your hair want to do? Your whole body's got to be involved in this, not just your frontal lobe's ego, right? So put your first ideas down, and then when they're down, leave them. Disassociate the judgment from the process of creating. Invite a mate over. I did this the other day. We set up bass player and drums, right? And we jammed down nearly an hour of different grooves and bass lines, all right? And then I've left it, and I'm not going to listen to it for about 2 weeks. It's like it's in the oven fulminating. And the reason is because I move away from it. At some point, I'll go and switch that on. And when I put it on, my viewpoint, and I'm right, my viewpoint will be completely different. And my ability to judge what was good, my ability to go through what we just did and go, that's hitting the target. That one's hitting the target there. Didn't think it at the time. I thought that was the weird one, but actually that's far more interesting. These ones here, we're just trying to be like cool bass lines and drums we're trying to do. But this one, never really heard anything like this. It's more profound because it's doing something I'm not quite sure what it is. I want to know what it is. It's compelling because of that reason. I didn't realise it at the time. I felt a bit chaotic. We didn't feel in control. But now I've come back a couple of weeks later. It seems so much better. It seems to have a meaning. It's got a meaning. I didn't know that at the time. So I would say work quickly, put the stuff down, don't think about it, Put the first ideas down, put a lot of ideas down, walk away and divide the process up of judgment and creation. Do not judge when you're creating. Do not create when you're judging, right? Use other people's opinions. This is why bands are great. This is why music is a communal thing. The art forms like writing, say, and painting, those are individualist art forms. And they suffer with blank canvas syndrome. We don't, because we've got other people. Unless you're a solo pianist like Keith Jarrett or solo guitarist like Joe Pass, and I must sit there, as I do every night when I pick up my guitar. I fancy playing the guitar, and I pick the guitar up, and then I don't know what to play. I got no ideas. My mate turns up, he starts jamming, I'll play with them. So I'm going to finish here. I only wanted to do a half-hour video on this because I think my videos are getting too long. I've always got this worry that my videos are too long. Plus, I'm filming this in 4K as an experiment. So it's when my videos go straight up, I want to get the quality a bit higher. So I look like a proper YouTuber sometimes. I've got this big TV at home now, and I put my channel on, and some of them bloody look terrible. So I thought, well, maybe I need to do it in 4K. I don't know, because I have got no clue how to do bloody YouTube videos. I'm learning as I go along. But I suppose, even if they are a bit blurry and the lighting not great, you know, hopefully there's got something else in them that people like. Well, I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to carry on doing this, if you don't mind, you know, coming and sitting down. It seems to be the thing that people like about my channel is my ability to sit down and just talk like this for half an hour and make some sort of sense, even if you don't agree. How did I learn that? 30 years in the classroom teaching kids. That's how I learned that. But to really get to some truth, like today, I had got no idea. But I think I know what the target is. The target is being in that state. That's when you hit the bullseye. The target you're aiming at is being in that state. Because then the truth, or if it's the truth's the wrong word, but it's a clunky word, but I'll use it here. The truth of the art, or the success of the art, the quality of the art will then come through. And your ego will be removed, because it won't really be about you. It will simply be about you reacting in the world. And then you become part of the world, don't you? When you do that, you become part of the world. And in becoming part of the world, you integrate your mind and body, and it becomes one. And you have the realization when you see great art that we are all actually just a part of nature. And as much as Michelangelo's genius is inherent in that statue of David, we also are aware that actually that existed in the rock before he even started. And many of these great sculptors feel that they are just unearthing what is already there. That is the target. That is the target. It's to be there. It's to be there. So, the answer to the video, if you want to be a great artist, you need to learn how to be there. I'm not editing this one, am I, Andy? So sometimes I do. If I want a dramatic end, I will do that, and then it'll go to a fade out. Then I realise I'm not editing this one. I'm just going straight up. So I put myself in a bit of a quandary here with just the staring into space. What shall we do? How about this?